What's up everyone, welcome to Akuma Studies, and today I'm going to be talking about the Vintage Watch Owner's Guide. Now, you might be thinking, alright, why are you making a guide for vintage watches? Shouldn't this be just a guide for watches in general? No, because vintage wristwatches provide a set of circumstances that are different than when you buy newer watches. So, number one, you have to remember that you have to keep your watches away from water. Vintage watches, the seal's old, even if there were dive watches in the past, as I have made mistakes also about using vintage dive watches in water, but the seals are old and they're not usually watertight, or could be also that the crystal in the case, there's like holes or whatever. Just when there's a vintage watch, I kid you not, unless it's been serviced very recently, it is not going to perform at all in water. You're going to flood it, and if you do flood it, we're going to get into this a little bit later, so we'll talk about that later. So number one, keep it away from water. This means washing your hands, this means washing dishes, this means swimming in swimming pools or lakes, or even maybe if it's raining. Just keep your wristwatch as safe from water as possible. Let's say you're getting ready to wash the dishes, take your watch off, set it off to the side. Let's say you're washing your hands, just make sure that your watch doesn't get wet, or obviously wear a different watch if you're going to the swimming pool or the beach. So just keep that in mind. You're going to want to keep your watch away from water. So number two, this is very similar to what I was talking about earlier. You want to have some basic tools so you can mess and tinker with your watches if necessary. For example, these tools don't have to be like professionals tools. They can just be maybe a knife. They could be there are watch tools that you can kind of make on your own or use other items as those tools. So whether it's scissors, I've used scissors to open up screw back cases. I've used my knife to actually pop open this Timex, the back. It's a pop open case, so I just stuck my knife in there and popped it open. And it's very important to be able to open up the case back, to be able to do a lot of things like that. For example, my last video, I got moisture in this Timex. If I didn't have or the know-how or the tools to be able to pop open the back and just wipe off the moisture, then there is going to be significant damage to your watch. If there's moisture or water in your wristwatch for about anything longer than a few days, it's going to start to rust, it's going to mess with the oil, and eventually your watch is either going to start running slower, maybe it'll not perform properly, obviously. You'll run into a lot of issues if you do not take the moisture out very very soon after you get the moisture in your wristwatch. Number three, just be aware. What I do is I think about my vintage timepieces as let's say you bought a 1,000-year-old Crusader sword. You're not gonna be going out and playing with that sword with your friends, if you know what I mean. Or let's say you just treat it as a historical object, because that's what it is. It's a vintage timepiece. It's a little piece of history, and for me, knowing that my watch is a little piece of history makes me take care of it better. So for example, if if I'm shadow boxing with a vintage watch, I don't want that that shock and that of moving around too much. Just whatever. It really just depends on your lifestyle, really. But just keep in mind, these are old things. The technology that when these things were made was different than the technology we have now. They're a bit fragile, and treat it like a nice, frail, beautiful woman, and you'll be fine, really. And those are my tips for this is not my tips, this is my vintage watch owner's guide. Not so much to be able to find the watch, but mostly just keeping it in good orderly and working condition. So I'll just repeat it off again. Number 1, keep it away from water. Number 2, have basic tools ready in case something goes wrong. Number 3, be aware of your wristwatch. You know, first of all, I'm gonna guess by now that you know exactly the specifics of your wristwatch, what movement it is, what the brand it is, what size is this, what size is that, whatever. But just be aware that your watch is a vintage timepiece and it should be treated as such. So that's the end of the video. If you know anyone who's starting to get into vintage wristwatches, let them share this video with them. Help them not to run into a lot of the mistakes that I ran into and that maybe some of you guys out there have too. I wore my vintage Vostok in the water. I got this one the other day, and it's not fun when you have a really wristwatch you really like, but it's not telling time. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. Akuma out.